Okay. Okay. So you remember, so last week we got started just kind of just talking about what groups are and what group is and everything too. And we started talking about what makes a good leader and um, you know, the characteristics and all that stuff too. We'll kind of continue along those lines today, but we'll kind of go a little bit more in depth on it. So if you have any questions at all, just let me know. Just go ahead and interrupt and we'll answer those questions. Or if you have thoughts, anything you want to contribute, anything, we can, uh, I would love to have discussion. I love discussions. Okay. So, there's the learning objectives of sport and common issues facing beginner group leaders, which you all, well, I mean, I know maybe some of you have ran some groups before, um, but maybe you'll be stepping into new roles or something of new groups. So what does that look like to be, starting new roles? Identify the characteristics and functions of effective group leaders. Describe the major skills required for effective group facilitation and a rationale for an approach to self-assessment of group leadership skills. So how do I look inside myself? How am I doing as a group leader? Hey, got to be healthy, spiritually, mental health wise, all of that don't have to be perfect, of course, because nobody is. So that's the good thing. So, but we, try to be healthy in the room and everything too, so that we can help others. Discuss some ways to select co-leaders. Very important. If you're running a group and you're adding a co-leader, man, there is so much that needs to be done with that is like, the chemistry that you have. And then, how are we, the role of the leader versus co-leader, what's the difference in those? Because you can't have two leaders leading, right? So what makes a group most effective when you do have a leader and a co-leader? What does that look like? Present the advantages of co-leadership, present the disadvantages of co-leadership, and introduce the value of research orientation in group work. Okay. Oh, there's even more. Wow, look at how much we're going to learn in such a short time. Consider the status of group research. Probably won't get into too much about the research stuff. Elaborate on research and demonstrate how research. Probably won't get too much into that. It's more about how do we start groups, things like that too, because you'll learn research in other classes. So we won't get into that too much. Okay. This is so weird. Okay, just so norms, okay, norms and roles. Okay, so um, describe. So what norms do? They describe consistent patterns of behaviors by all the group members. So group norms. So example of this would be a group changes the subject when one person starts feeling bad. So you're sitting in a group and um, somebody says something and it offends somebody else, or they get sad, or they get mad, or whatever. And instead of investigating that situation, the whole group just turns and avoids or dismisses or minimizes or something and goes on to something else. They may do it for many, many reasons. And one of those reasons could be it doesn't feel comfortable. Doesn't feel comfortable to explore things, right? So then there's roles within groups, right? So roles describe consistent patterns of behaviors performed by individual group members. So example of that would be a particular group member is counted on to crack a joke when conflict begins between two people. This reinforces group norms that conflict is not okay. So you're always going to have people. Maybe you'll have a perfect group sometimes. And then maybe you'll have a totally unperfect group sometimes, right? That just doesn't seem to be going well. It really just goes back to culture, characteristics of people, personality types, just goes into all kinds of things to consider when there's a group, right? And you've all had, think of think of visiting churches, right? So you go to Erica's church and it's one way, and then you go to Cindy's church and it's a different way. Well, what's the difference in between those? The thing is, okay, we're all praying to God, singing to God, worshiping, all of these things. But think about the culture of the people in there that makes it different dynamics. Same with groups, right? Um, okay. There we go. Norms, what were your family's patterns of behaviors? Think about in your family. Think about in your family, what was the pattern of behaviors of people that made it normal? So would it be Sundays we all went to church and we all had lunch together? That'd be a norm thing. Those are unwritten rules, meaning you're you don't plan anything on Sundays. Sundays are family time, right? You get together and we eat, we go to church, we pray together, we do all of these things together. That's our thing. Or um, think of some other norms of your family. Think about that. What would some norms be within your family? Family patterns of behaviors. And here it says unwritten rules. What were some unwritten rules of your family?
This is kind of silly, but it's true. Don't ever sit in dad's chair. That's the
That's,
thing. Like,
oh my gosh, Maddie, you got a
if
perfect
he's
one.
home, you don't sit in his chair. Like,
Yep. My father was the same way. Yeah.
yep. And it's not like anybody actually has said that out loud, but
Yeah.
you know.
You just knew, right? Oh man, you brought back so many memories. I love that. Thank you. Yes. Don't sit in dad's chair. That's a big one. And it was lumpy in all his places, right? So you couldn't sit in his chair. Yeah, that's awesome. Good. Thank you for that. What were your patterns of behaviors in your home? So, meaning roles. What were the patterns of your behaviors in your home? Your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your fathers. So, what was your role? So many times you counsel people, and maybe it's a family, and each person has a role. And you'll learn, I think, in is it oh, what's the class? Life. Oh gosh, it's escaping me. But anyway, um, stages of life and all that stuff too. Lifespan development. That's kind of what it is. You'll learn those things. So you'll learn what family members and roles in that too, that each person takes within um, within the family. So group leaders need to evaluate what types of norms are being negotiated in the group. So that comes with watching people, right? So each group is going to be different. So there's going to be different norms in them, right? So being negotiated in the group, block obstructing norms and encourage helping norms. So block ones that are not helpful and ones that stymie, the growth of the group, and keep encouraging the ones. So what you want to block, remember the one we were just talking about, you'll block the one that where if people something that comes uncomfortable, they change the subject. Well, we want to block those because what's a group for? We want to process, right? Um, so here's some obstructing norms. It's the behaviors that are inconsistent with group goals. So criticizing, denying feelings, talking about others outside of the group, avoiding responsibilities, and competitiveness. So what are some obstructing norms that you bring into the group? You don't have to answer that, but so just think about that. What are some obstructing norms that a person could bring into the group and how, and that's what a good co-leader is going to help you do, is help you um, e- um, change those and work around those. So had we have a group at Abundant Life, and somebody was coming in and they cracked a lot of jokes, you know. So we're like, this is a processing group. So I'm coaching the leaders of this group how to handle a person that comes in and they're not processing and they're not following the rules and things like that too, because they are leaders, you know. So they're not counselors, but they're leaders of this group. And so they don't know everything. They haven't been through this class, right? So how they don't know everything to do, but they want to be a leader in this. So there's things that go along with being a leader. Okay, helping norms. Behaviors that are consistent with group goals. Obviously, what are some helping norms that you bring into the group? So think about those. What are some helping norms that you bring in? So group leaders need to take a look at how group members' roles are contributing to the development of the group. Very important. So if you have somebody within your group um, that is a rock star, two things. You don't want them dominating the group because then nobody else will participate. But what if they do add a lot of things and they're good models? That's one thing that you want to keep encouraging in them is to be a good model, right? So roles, facilitative means encourage helping norms in the group. So that's facilitative. Remember that. That encourages good norms in the group. Okay. Example would be a member who encourages the expression of genuine negative emotions, right? So if somebody's being authentic and genuine, they encourage that in people, right? So hindering, self-serving to accomplish their own personal agenda, but not the group's agenda. So that may be somebody who interrupts. Here's an example, a member who suppresses the expression of negative emotions by asking everyone to please be nicer to one another, right? Um, instead of processing and things like that too. I'm teaching a multicultural class at another school, and that's one thing is it's very diverse and everything too. And so they've been very good about um, not suppressing, you know, discussions and things like that too. So it's been very good. So avoiding serves to keep group members from meaningful interactions. So example would be changes the subject and brings things from the outside in. Okay, changes the subject, brings things from the outside in. Avoiding. We all know avoiding or dismissing individuals, and we all know what that looks like. And I think we all have certain amount of this in everyone. You know, I had a teacher, he's something was going on, and I said, well, how did that affect you? And he goes, well, I'm avoidant enough that, you know, I just skipped over it, right? And it was something within his family. So it was it was kind of funny. He had to be there, I guess. But okay, so group leader characteristics. This is you all, okay, to be the best leaders you can be. Some personal characteristics that are effective, having the courage. Oh, that's huge. Having the courage to do almost anything within the group. Just having the courage, you know, to and the confidence level to lead is greatly needed, right? Self-awareness and commitment to self-care. Why are those? Tell me about those. Why are those important? Self-awareness and then commitment to self-care.
They're important so that you yourself don't get triggered while you're trying to lead the group.
Mhm. Yeah, what's the self? So after you say that, what's the self-care? How does that contribute to it?
I mean, what is it? I think it's different for every person, but you
Mhm.
should know what you need to do to keep yourself balanced and regulated. I mean, whether it's going for a run or seeing your own counselor or, taking a long shower, whatever it is that works for you.
Absolutely good. Absolutely. I like it. Next, willingness to model healthiness, right? That's a lot of pressure on group leaders. What if we're having that's the one thing I always think about is counselors, it seems like you have to be on all the time, right? What if you're having a bad day or something happens in your personal life that you can't bring into the room? You have nobody to process with, right? What do you do then, right? So that's what's always having a good team members around you and good family structure, systems, and support systems. Goodwill, genuineness and caring, belief in group process. That's a huge one, right? Just think about this, belief in group process. So there are 4 stages, and we're going to get to know all of those. But it's belief that when you start at one and you're like going, oh, this will never work, that if you follow the process in the counseling, in groups, in counseling, individuals, all that stuff too, that if you follow the process, that it will turn into something, right? Not saying there's going to be bumps in every stage, but following the process. Openness, non-defensiveness, presence, non-defensiveness, and coping with criticism. Yeah, we're going to get a lot of that, right? Becoming aware of subtle cultural issues, being able to identify with the client's pain, commitment to self-care, and self-awareness again. Okay, some personal characteristics continued. Personal power, stamina. Yeah, stamina, big time. Um, Sense of humor. That's a good one. Sense of humor is important. Now, just like you remember you learned um, self-disclosure, all about self-disclosure and the importance of it, but there's always appropriate times and ways of doing it and why we're doing it. Same with sense of humor, right? Because you can use sense of humor, but maybe you're using it to avoid something or to cover up something or whatever, right? So it's very important. Sense of humor can de-escalate things and things like that too. So it's always important to know when and how to use things. Inventiveness, personal dedication and commitment. Perfect. Creating a group climate that fosters interpersonal norms such as openness, directness, respect, and concern for one another will lead to therapeutic interactions among members. Most important part is to build that therapeutic alliance and have everybody else build that, all of those things right there, openness, directness, respect, all of those for one another, so that you all have autonomy and you can um, work with one another. Leaders' interpersonal skills, genuineness, empathy, and warmth are significant variables in creating the kind of climate that leads to successful outcomes. Interpersonal skills, right? Genuineness. What if you had somebody that was just like a robot leading a group? What does the rest of the group become? They either A, become robots or they don't become anything, right? They won't open up, you know? So it's that caring, and a person genuinely knows when you're caring, right? They genuinely can feel it, sense it, all of those things. So that's important too. Okay. So developing group leadership skills. So it's essential to acquire these skills. You know, I think a lot of it, you have them within you, but you can develop new skills, right? And it's just being aware of what I need and practicing them and so on. Skills cannot be separated from the leader's personality type, right? Your personality is going to always come through. And okay, and then learning how to use group skills is an art. Yeah, it's an art. Skills are learned through supervised experience, practice, feedback, and participation as a member. So all of those things we just mentioned before come right into play in this. Skills are learned through supervised experience, right? So having these experiences, going back to a supervisor, or here's another part, is having that co-leader and talking about how the group went afterwards and all that. We'll get into a lot of that later. But that's why co-leaders are so important. So guess what? We're going to use a lot of the helping skills that we learned in group counseling, active listening, reflecting, clarifying, summarizing, this whole list. We're going to use all of those. Okay. Um, Modeling is a big one for us because remember what we're saying is the group is a smaller picture of the world, outside world for them. This is a place where they can come in and practice things, learn new things, trial and error in a safe manner because the world could be unsafe out there for them, right? So how do we gain the confidence and skills we need in here to use them outside? Problems and issues facing group leaders. So here we go. These are things that you may come up against, right? So how will I be able to get the group started? That's a fear, isn't it? You may have some kind of group like grief share, divorce care, whatever. Those are like prepackaged groups that are fairly easy, and those people are there for a reason. So it's not like a group that you start where, okay, we're going to do psychoeducation on whatever it is, and you put up something on a bulletin board in a coffee shop and hope for the best, right? So, I mean, that's kind of a different way. How will I be able to get this thing started? Um, Maybe you have an easy way, maybe it's a hard way, depending on what your group's going to be. What techniques should I use? It's all going to be different. Let's explore that just a little bit. What techniques should I use? What's going to make the difference in that? What do I need to look for to understand the techniques I need to use? I'll get it started. What about um, the techniques that I should use in a group of individuals like grief share? So my technique should be empathy, but uh, more techniques would help intervention wise, how to how to be how to accept your sorrow, your pain, things like that. But what techniques do I use to help them, right? Should I wait for the group to initiate activity? Or do I get the ball rolling and call people out? Right. So maybe nobody's saying anything. So then I got to start calling people out. I'm not going to be the only one talking, things like that too. Well, I know how to follow through once something has been initiated. What if I do get the ball rolling? Then how do I keep the ball rolling? Right. So I got this momentum that's going. How do I keep that momentum going? What if I don't like one of the group members? Woo, what about that? How am I going to act in that position? What if I make mistakes? Can I do harm to members? I mean, how many, by raise of hands, fear that? Yeah. I mean, everybody that comes into for supervision or something, I said, what's your biggest fear? Yeah, failing is one, but it's always, I don't want to harm them. And so I always try to reassure people that, people came in with coping skills, whether they're healthy or not, but they already had helping skills that they used in times of need for whatever issue it is. Okay. Um, what do here's a good one. What do I do if there's prolonged silence? Who has a fear of that? Oh, I get it. You guys you're testing me right now, aren't you? You tested me with the silence. I get it. No, prolonged silence. Silence is your friend. Let it happen. Just get comfortable in it. Trust me. If you don't, you know, you guys know that I say this all the time. Just start getting comfortable in silence. It's it's a good thing. Okay. Courage. Willingness to be vulnerable and admit to mistakes, to confront group members. You know, we use that word confront. Confront can mean many different things too. And when I see this here, I think of the word challenge. How am I going to challenge group members, okay, to be effective, to get out of their comfort zone, things like that. That's the confronting part. It's not like, a bad confrontation. It's a good confrontation. It's a difference between, remember, we talked about the difference between kindness and being nice and being kind, right? Being nice is allowing things to happen and letting people do their thing, but being kind is telling them something in love. Okay. To act on your own beliefs and hunches, to be to have courage to do that, to be emotionally affected by group members. Takes courage to be emotionally affected by others. To be direct and honest with group members, that's a big one, right? That's where the kindness can come. And this is one of my favorites. So modeling. So being the group leader that you want your group members to be. So everybody that comes through, we want to model for them healthiness in whatever way it is, in speaking, in challenging, in whatever it may be. We want to model healthiness, right? And maybe it is group members get mad at us or at somebody else, but we keep our composure and our cool, and we say, oh, and then we ask them questions to the effect of, tell me what's going on within you, that I see you're angry, and so on, right? So we want to model healthiness. Presence, being affected, but not overwhelmed by your group members' pain, struggles, and joy. That's a fine line, right? So we have all had times where somebody's come to us, and it's hard not to be affected by their sadness or whatever's going on, or them being hurt or whatever's going on in their life. It's hard not to be affected, but it's okay to be affected by it, but just not overwhelmed in it, right? Because we still have a job to do in modeling and leading and things like that. So not being distracted, but fully attentive to what is going on in the moment within the group. Not being distracted by issues. But if because somebody could be opening up, being genuine, authentic, opening up and describing their pain and everything too. And maybe that is something that a person, it overwhelms them. And so they make a joke or they try to distract or minimize or whatever it is. So not being distracted by that, but that one-on-one presence with somebody too, because you're really doing some really good processing and work with them. So as you're moved by group experiences, it gives you empathetic understanding and clarity of what is happening within the group. As you're moved by these experiences, what's that mean? To me, when you're being moved by the group experiences, you are joining in on whatever emotion is going on in there, and you're understanding it and you're feeling it with that person. That's what empathy is. Not feeling for them, but feeling with them. Right? Goodwill, genuineness, and care. So has sincere interest in the welfare of the group members. That's a great leader. They give warmth, concern, support when you are genuine, when you're feeling it. When you're feeling that warmth and support, you're able to give that to them at every level. Showing care even for group members that are more difficult, right? So we're all going to have members that maybe rub us wrong, different personalities, whatever. Um, you know, you all have different personalities that maybe, I don't want to say rub you the wrong way or whatever, but you know what I'm talking about, that maybe we want to maybe shy away from. Mine is a really loud, boisterous person. It's like I can tolerate and all that stuff too, but whew, for me, it's it overwhelms me sometimes, right? So I have to understand that and adjust, right? So, what type of group members might be difficult for you to show goodwill, genuineness, and care with? Don't answer it, but just think about that. What type of group members might be difficult for you to, you may have that blockage within you that blocks that empathy process. So think about that. So, and what are we going to do with that? Right. So how are we, that's where a good consultation with somebody else, supervisor, all of that can help you through process through those things. Here we go. Belief in the group process. So believe in yourself as a group leader and trust the group therapy process. That's important. Write that down. Right. Believe in yourself as a group leader and trust the process. Challenging moments in a group can test this. You must believe that if you maintain healthy norms, healthy outcomes will come. So if we establish healthy norms in there of listening, being empathetic with each other, being genuine, authentic, all of those things, if we have all of those in place and we've done a good job of keeping those norms, we should have very healthy outcomes. Openness. Group members need to see you reveal enough of yourself that they get a sense of who you are. Why is that important? Let me open that up to y'all. Why is that important? Group members need to see you reveal enough of yourself that they get a sense of who you are. Why is that important?
I think it builds trust, and if you're vulnerable and reveal parts of yourself, it builds more trust in the group.
Absolutely. That's great. Yep.
And you're also modeling being vulnerable so they can open themselves too.
Absolutely. That's great. Yes. Modeling, being genuine. Those are great. Why is it important for them to know who you are as a person?
It's kind of what Erica just said, but
Yeah.
like it feels more comfortable opening up to someone when you feel like you have somewhat of a relationship or understand who they are. Because if they're just a complete random stranger, it's hard to be vulnerable.
Good job, Jolie. And what is that? It's safety, right? So we created that safe place for them to be all of those things that you guys just said. That's what we're trying to do is build that safe place. Good job.
I think
Most
it also develops
I'm sorry.
confidence. It helps them know that you can help them improve.
Yeah, that's good. Confidence is a big thing, right? They may not have confidence out behind the walls that you guys are in, but we sure wanted it on the inside. Most therapeutic moments come in the form of offering here and now reactions. Sorry. To members indicating how you are being affected by them. Oh. Your openness will help open up other group members as well. Okay. Next one, non-defensiveness with criticism. Very important, right? We're all going to not everybody has the same, will come into the group with the same idea or what's the word I'm looking for? Where you see what the end game is going to be, right? So we all don't come in with the same perception, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So there's going to be people when you have expectations of something and those expectations aren't met, then criticism can happen, right? So you can't, what's the old saying? You can't please everybody all the time, right? And that's going to happen. So this means developing a thick skin when group members push back and react to the direction you're taking them. or the group. So it's necessary to make it safe for the group. We just talked about that, safety in the group. Make it safe for the group members to confront you, or they will withdraw from the group. If they can't be known, if they can't air their, their what they're feeling or whatever, what you're doing, remember this whole thing is for them is you to model healthiness, right? And the thing that's healthy for them in this group is learning these new skills. Okay, simply describing your reactions in a kind way helps keep safety and not communicate defensiveness. Keep your reactions in a kind way. Awareness of, so here's a very important part, right? Especially with so much diversity now in the world, and online groups. So say you have just, we have groups at Abundant Life that are not just in Lee Summit, Missouri, right? They're all over the place, right? So there's going to be different cultures. You can go regionally and there's going to be different cultures, right? So it's being cognizant of that. So being aware of your own unconscious and conscious cultural biases that you may have and the prejudice that you may have that may interfere with a safe group process that encourages the participation of all members, regardless of all the cultures, right? If we understand our own prejudice, we are more likely to help group members do the same. Okay, identifying with group members' pain, being genuine, all of these things, being open to allowing yourself to experience that emotional pain that they are experiencing as well. So that's where the empathy comes in. Remember the old Brene Brown video? It's like 3 minutes long, and it's the difference between sympathy and empathy. So basically, sympathy is feeling for someone, and empathy is feeling with them. So that's what they want, is that somebody to feel with them, not take away, but to feel feel understood too. Okay, being open to the sources of your pain in your own life to increase identification of group members' pain. So this is what, not just group counseling, but counseling in general, being able to draw within something that's deep inside of us that we've experienced before. It may not be the exact same thing that they've experienced, but something you've experienced that you can relate to in that pain that they're experiencing. Okay. When I first started counseling, I hadn't lost a parent yet. So when people were coming in and they'd lost their parents, I hadn't ever experienced that. And I had come from a really small family and I hadn't lost many people at all. And so now, my father's passed, my grandmother, all of these people have passed. So I get it now, so I can relate to them in many different ways now. So just drawing off of pain. So I couldn't relate to losing a parent, but I could relate to losing somebody within my family, right? That was important to me. So I could relate to their sorrow, grieving in some form or fashion. Personal power. So as a group leader, know who you are and what you want. Know who you are and what you want. Very important. Trusting in our confidence while continuing to fine-tune ourselves as people and professionals. Trusting in our confidence while continuing to fine-tune ourselves as people and professionals. Leaders who are not confident might take credit for group members' own insights and change. Yeah, we always want to always build. So, and maybe you remember these things, good leaders. I remember one saying was, at the end of the day, a good leader, it's like the people that are under a leader, they go, look what I did. I did this stuff, all of this. So even if the leader is helping or doing whatever, a good leader is helping them to be everything they can be and building skills and all this so that they can do these things. So, and there's a book out there, gosh, what's his name? Oh, it's called Leaders Eat Last, right? So it's just all about humility. It's all about building those up around you that um, it's kind of like I look at Ephesians 5 about good marriage. So good marriage, what's the husband? So they are to love their bride, their wife, like Christ loved the church, right? So and Christ is did things through service, things like that too. So we're to serve your spouse, things like that. You build, you encourage, you do all of these things to build them. Well, that's what a good leader does, right? So the leader of the household, um, and leaders of groups, leaders of work, wherever you're at, good leaders build others around them. Okay. Commitment to self-care. Here we kind of talked about that. Our own stamina, talked about that. As a group leader requires that we are caring for others, or caring for ourselves. I'm sorry. Caring for ourselves so that what's that thing? You're riding on a plane and there's turbulence or maybe whatever's going on and the oxygen masks fall. What's the stewardess say? What's the first thing they say? If you have family members.
Make sure to put yours on before you help those around you.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to be no good if we're not. We're not going to be good to others if we're not good, you know. So commit to habits of thinking, feeling, and behaving that promotes wellness. That's a good one. We cannot provide nourishment to group members if we do not nourish ourselves. There you go. That's kind of what we were just talking about with the oxygen mask, right? So we can't provide if we're not whole ourselves. Inventiveness, the capacity for spontaneity and to approach the group with new ideas each week. It's good. You don't want you don't want people come to the group and it's the same thing over and over and over each week. And guess what's going to happen? They're going to get bored, they're not going to participate, and they're not going to show up, right? So we got to keep it fresh, all of those things. Experiments often merge from the here and now, which require inventiveness to create and to deliver. So having a creative mind, when we're being inventive and creating new things. An inventive leader can also tap into the creativity of its members. Yeah, so it's not just us. We want to tap into how can group members, because then they're participating in it. They've got ownership in it and they take responsibility for things. Personal dedication and commitment, allowing yourself to commit time and resources into making a difference as a group leader. Yeah. I mean, it does take a lot of time. And here's the other part. I hope when you guys have your groups and everything too, you pray about the group, you pray over the group, you pray for every individual in the group, just always being in prayer for all of these things that we just talked about, building others and that God will build us in the meantime to be good leaders of people that he entrusts to us, that we're stewards over, that he puts in our lives, right? And here's the other thing is I'm always learning from, that's why I like these classes. I'm always learning from you all in these things, right? And to build myself through this and listening to you, and we all collaborate and all that stuff too, it benefits the next class, right? Okay, group leadership skills. What's it take to be a good leader? It's essential to acquire and refine these skills. Skill development is considered to be on a continuum of confidence, meaning we're always learning new things and building that will build our confidence. Skills can be overlapping. For instance, reflecting while or by modeling. Skills are learned through supervised experience that we talked about. So practice, feedback, participation, and so on. Okay, so advantages of co-leadership. So here we're getting into the co-leadership. So having a good co-leader, so it even comes down to you have a group. Where does the co-leader sit? They should be sitting right directly across from you, so that you're dividing the room, all that stuff too, and then you can see each other in there. But it's always important. You don't want, and then there's that power differential, right? So you don't want a leader and a co-leader sitting next to each other, because then there's that power, that's all at the top of the circle, right? So advantages of having a co-leader. Decreases the chance of burnout. That's pretty good. Less overwhelming to respond to the needs of the group. Yeah. And it gives you body to share in. Yeah. What Ecclesiastes, when it talks about the husband, wife, the two strands versus the three strands, right? So that third strand gives you what? It gives you that support. Without God, it's not possible, right? So we need God in all of this, and so that we can do the work, right? Co-leader peer supervision is beneficial, can be helpful in managing counter transference. So what are you feeling sometimes in these groups? So being able to process with them, right? And it could be about somebody that's in the group, or something that's happening in the group that triggers something within you, or whatever. Co-leader can help process members' reactions to the other leader. There you go. If one leader is absent, the group can still meet because the other group's there, or the leader. Group members can benefit from two perspectives and strengths. Very important. Okay. Most of the disadvantages in the co-leading groups have to do with this. So think about this when you're selecting co-leadership. So poor selection of a co-leader it's just like you've all had jobs, right? And you go to a job. One thing that they say, be slow to hire, quick to fire, right? And what that means is do your due diligence in selecting somebody that's going to be along with your same personality or close or whatever. That it's going to help, that's going to develop you, encourage you to grow, help you, not be against you. Okay, all of those things. Poor selection of the co-leader, random assignment to another leader. So if you've got groups and then somebody says you and you and you and you and you and you, go lead these groups or whatever, and it's just random without being able to pick somebody who's just like you, or that you do a good job of leading with. So that could be a disadvantage. Failure of the two leaders to meet on a regular basis. That's important. When it says not sitting across from each other, it means you should sit across from each other. So the disadvantage is not sitting, okay? Interacting only with the co-leader. We don't want that. No, it's about the group members, right? So we don't want to just have this conversation with the co-leader all the time. Having a goal in a group, but not communicating that to the co-leader. You can imagine that one, right? So if you come in with an agenda and you don't work that out with the co-leader, what's going to happen? Either A, you don't get the buy-in, they feel left out, they're not going to help you, they're not going to participate, it's just not going to be ran well. So both of y'all have to be on the same page. Continue. Dominating, asserting power over the co-leader. Never a good idea, right? It's co-leader for a reason. It's not first, primary, secondary, all that. It's co. So being right at the expense of making the co-leader wrong. Ooh, how would that make the person? You want to lose somebody quickly to do that, right? And so they'll never be with you. So you've lost trust, safety, all of those things. And what else are you doing? You're modeling bad things at that. So you're not modeling teamwork and all those good things. I love this one. Taking turns leading. Yeah, don't always, if you're the leader, maybe you do the first three or whatever, and this person may be new. So let them lead for half of a session or a whole session coming up, and then um, you can supervise at that point or whatever. Remaining quiet and letting the co-leader do most of the work. Yeah. Same with having a co-leader and they remain quiet. I think to me, it just develops untrust, if that's a word, not having trust within, the of your leaders, right? If one's not participating. Giving and receiving feedback. There is a model, it's called the oral model. The O, observe the behaviors and events that cause you to have a personal reaction. Identify certain behaviors. R is report. Observe and then report what you saw. The behaviors, report what you heard. The words that initiate your reactions, okay? The A, share your assumptions and interpretations about what you saw and heard and the intentions of the receiver. And then L, share the feelings you experience. So observe, report, what are my assumptions about it, and level, share the feelings that you have experienced. Okay, what's that look like? Oh, you know what? It says level here, but that's supposed to be listen, I think. Listen. No. Okay, so we'll go here. What is it? Level? I don't know. I apologize. Level just doesn't seem right. I'll have to look that up. I'll look it up when we break. Anybody know? Anybody see that in the book? Should be in the book in chapter 2. Hell just level just does not seem right. Or level. It's in here. Oh, I'll look it up. Okay, I'll find it for you. I had these PowerPoints done before, and then I had somebody redo them because they were so ugly. And they did a really good job in creating them. I just don't know if this word is right. Probably is. Anyway, okay, I'll look it up when we're in break. Okay, so listen carefully to the feedback. So this is active listening, right? Listen carefully to the feedback. Paraphrase what you heard the feedback sender say, and reach an agreement with the sender that you have heard the feedback accurately. Ask others in your group about their perceptions of the behavior being addressed. So really, this is opening up. This sounds scary, when we're asking others to participate in it, but it really helps develop a safe place. It's like going, okay, they are going to open up about things that maybe I feel awkward about or something like that and bringing up. And we're going to talk about it in a way that is productive, right? And then decide if you want to try on a different behavior. That's what the group process is all about, creating new behaviors. So then they can decide at that moment, and they don't have to decide at that point, but just being self-aware that I do need a change of some sort. And I want to try it on here because it's a safe place and I can do this in a, what is it? A smaller, it's a picture of a smaller world before you get out into the big world, right? Okay. Yeah, so this is there's a exercise of being able to try out this model, the oral model, and use active listening. But we're not going to do that. You guys can look at that on if we were to do this, it's more for being in person to be able to do it. One person gives feedback using the oral model, and then you switch back. One person comments on how that feedback went, and then everybody switches. It's really just to, try it out. And hopefully you all have work through active listening in some way or another in your lives. And if not, you're going to be using that a lot in counseling, especially with couples. So active listening with couples. Okay. Perfect timing. 7:03. Those guys are going to be jumping on here in a little bit. So how about hang on one second. Stop sharing. So hey Ryan, didn't see you jump on.
Hey, I'm at my layover right now in Nashville, so I got like a hour and a half before I board again.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, glad you joined on. That's nice of you. So safe travels. Sorry, the reason why you had to go there, and hope your family's doing okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. But we were just getting ready to take a little break, and then what we're going to do, Ryan, is I've got some individuals that are going to come on, and then I've got breakout rooms, so we'll break you all apart. And so two people, the leaders, they're going to take you through one thing, for 3 weeks, and then they're going to switch. So you kind of see how what it kind of looks like. But here's what I want you to kind of do: compare and contrast the two different groups, and maybe you can write about this in your paper. The leadership styles, how it was developed, what you felt like the first time going through, and maybe the second time going through the other ones. Maybe I opened up more. What did the leaders do that helped me to open up more? Here's the other thing is, ask them, I'm going to put them on the spot. Ask them what type of group it is. Is it psychoeducation? Is it this? Because it's always going to make a difference. If it's a processing group, you guys better be doing most of the talking, right? In a processing group. Except, I would say in the first week, you're developing things. You may not talk as much in that, and the leaders do more. Or, and then as the weeks develop, you talk more and more and more, and as the group is developed, right? Okay, so take a 10-minute break.
Doug,
Yes,
I have a question about one of our assignments. Is this an appropriate time to ask, or?
sure, yeah.
I noticed a discrepancy about the participation assignment. The Canvas says 2 to 3 pages, and I believe the syllabus says 3 to 4 pages as far as what's required to write.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know if anyone else caught that or not, but
yeah, 3 to 4, because
Okay.
well, whatever's close. Just whatever words you need to describe everything in it. This is it's about the experience.
this is the group participation paper, 150 points. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about going and experiencing a group.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all about the experience. So just write. Just tell me what you experienced, and you'll know what's appropriate for it.
Okay.
I trust you on that. To me, it's about the experience. So thanks for that. It's a great question. I appreciate you doing that. But it's about the experience, though, for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Getting out there and doing it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's take come back at 7:15 and we'll get started. And hopefully I'll know how to break out of these rooms.